Not every retirement account's the same, right? So the retirement account that somebody listening may have personally, let's say you got a job, right? Or somebody has a job in your network, whatever. Then you've got a retirement account with that job. That retirement account is called a 401k. That's one that, your employer may do a match or whatever it may be. All well and good. After you leave that job, and that's you may be asked to leave, if you know what I'm saying, or you might leave on your own voluntary. You can get fired or quit. I'll just say it straight up, right? It doesn't matter how you leave the job. It just matters that you're not working at that company anymore. The 401k that you used to have at that company now automatically becomes an IRA. So once this thing is an IRA, it doesn't have to get invested anymore through that company custodian that they've lined up, be that Vanguard, Janus, Fidelity, one of those big fish, right? It can be held at another custodian. It can be held in another place. And the first move is for that money to get moved over to a self-directed IRA, right? A self-directed IRA firm. There's a million out there. Google it. I'm not going to recommend any one company because to be straight, Kirby, they're all kind of the same. I just shop them on fees and customer service. They don't overpay. Make sure they've got really good modern technology. Leave you there. Then once that money is a self-directed IRA, it can get invested anywhere. You as a self-directed IRA holder can invest in all kinds of stuff. You can invest in stocks still. You can invest in private loans, private notes, private partnerships, all kinds of cool stuff. The only thing you can't do is you can't give the money to yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's like the one little asterisk is you can't take the money and put it in your own pocket or put it into your own deal. So bottom line for listener, whether if you got your own retirement account, great, get it to work, get it, for God's sakes, get it off Wall Street. Right? Get it off something you have no control over. Get it as something that you at least have some control, some leverage, some upside into, right? And get it off of something that's had a 17-year run, and everything like that. So maybe get it off the stock market and into something that's different. Anyway, now to a listener, for you, look in your network. My book, Raising Private Capital, talks about this very in very plain English and gives a lot more actionable steps, but I'll summarize it here. Look in your network, pull out a piece of paper, write down people in your network that used to work at one job and now work at another job. That's all you got to do. Like, oh yeah, Uncle Charlie used to work at 3M and now he works over here at DuPont or whatever it is. Write all, and it could be like Starbucks or Walmart or whatever. A lot of those firms that you think do have retirement accounts, and if somebody's worked there for more than a couple of years, the retirement account might have gone for a reasonable run. And it could be up a good bit. And now that money could get put into something else. So we all know probably $2, $3, $4 million, all of us in our cell phones. The question is, do you have a business that is strong enough to handle that money, that's got enough, guardrails and know-how in place, whether that's through a mentor or through of your own know-how. And do you have the chutzpah to call up those people that your Uncle Charlie, your next door neighbor, your best friend from high school, and tell them, hey, I know you used to work at ABC company and now work at XYZ company. Did you know that you could take your retirement account from ABC company and invest it right down the street in that fix and flip that I'm working on right around the corner from here? Did you know your money could be in that deal? Just as simple as that. And the bottom line, Kirby, is most people don't know. That people that didn't read Rich Dad Poor Dad, that are not lucky enough to listen to your podcast, a lot of the world don't know these things. We as real estate investors assume the world knows what we do. They assume everybody read Rich Dad Poor Dad. They assume everybody knows about private investing. They don't. The biggest thing that a capital raiser needs to be, or anybody raising capital, is an educator. Mm-hmm. To teach your base that what I'm talking about is possible. You can do this. You can invest in my fix and flip or in my rental deal, whatever it may be, with your retirement account that I happen to know you have.
Yeah. And how do you educate? Like, what's the best way to educate someone? Because I've noticed a lot of times people start learning this stuff and then they go to someone and they start speaking this foreign language to somebody who's, like you said, has never read Rich Dad Poor Dad. They have no context for real estate investing. And they start talking about these terminology that just confuses people. So Do you
Yeah.
have like a one pager? Or what's your process that you recommend if
It's
someone's
so
going to
funny
approach?
just to comment on what you talked about. They roll in the door and like, hey, let me tell you about IRR and how
Yeah.
and what the IRR is on my deal,
Yeah, exactly.
and what collateral I'm going to give you and everything like that. And it's like I want to play bingo with all kinds of real estate jargon words, right?
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, what you do is you've got to teach people the basics. Like, hey, your retirement account can be not in Wall Street. Did you know that, Mr. and Mrs. Investor? So you start there. We do have one pagers for our deals, and we used to do quite when we were doing smaller deals, we would do quite a few of them and all that. Just like, hey, here's a one pager for this deal, that deal, this deal, and that. Now that we're doing larger, now our company's lucky enough to be buying larger assets. We're buying 2 hotels right now. We're buying we bought multifamily over the years. We built multifamily over the years. So those deals, it's tough to squeeze it all into a one pager. We do have them.
Yeah.
But what I recommend that people do when they've got smaller deals is paint it from a perspective of what's in it for the investor.
Mm.
Don't be getting in there and showing lots of big words and lots of, percentages and dollars and cents and all that kind of stuff. Show like a hypothetical. You put in 50K into this deal. This is what it's going to yield in cash flow. This is what it's going to yield when it sells. This is what I'm going to turn 50 grand into 65 grand in a year or in 2 years or whatever it may be. Just put it to where the investor can super relate to what it is you're putting out there. And I think that you'll get a lot more traction.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such I mean, kind of a no-brainer for people. Like a lot of people, like you said, they feel like they're asking for so much money, and it's like they're really nervous about it, and they don't look through the lens of you're giving someone like a fixed, 10, 12% interest rate on an asset that's backed by a mortgage that they can see, feel, and touch. They know it's over long term going up in value. It's cash flowing. Like that's an awesome position that a lot of people as investors would
Yeah.
love to be in, instead of taking the roller coaster ride of the stock market and
Yeah.
having an average of 8% in their mutual funds, getting it 12% fixed is incredible.
Yeah, you could say, why don't you just be the bank? Like, why don't you take that? Why like take the roller coaster ride of Wall Street? You could, why not take your retirement account and just be the bank with it?
Yeah.
There's a bank on your home. You got to pay them monthly payments. What if you turn your retirement account into a bank as well? Those are very simple, relatable conversations that you can have with people that they can get their head around. Like, okay, my bank gives me money, and then I have to give the bank back a monthly payment. That's certainly way more than what what they gave me.
Yeah.
It adds up to be quite a bit more. So it's actually a good arrangement.
Yeah.
And God forbid, if I can't pay my mortgage, the bank can come take my house. Same thing with a private loan.
Mm-hmm.
It's collateral.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And do you, like if someone is starting with smaller deals, do you recommend they borrow private money for the whole deal or combine it with, a bank loan or a 30-year loan?
I mean, okay. I made this mistake of blending private money with bank money, and you can, but just the mistake that I made was doing a deal assuming that the market would continue to appreciate. So like, okay, let me go borrow 50K from a private lender and put it on this house, and I just use that as the down money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, I'll inflate my way out of it. Like the market will keep going up and up and up. And I buy the house for 300 grand, and in a year it's worth 400 grand, and I could just sell it or I could refinance or whatever. As you know, man, that equation worked in 2006, 7 before the crash. Post crash and for a while after, it didn't work anymore. And so if anybody is looking to use private money and blend it in, just make sure you're doing enough value add to where at your own control, the property you're buying for 300 grand is going to value at 500 grand in a year because you're, upgrading units or putting in new kitchens and bathrooms and charging more rent because of these things that you're doing or whatever. Just make sure that you're adding real material value to the property value as with those dollars so that you can exit. Because I couldn't exit for years on properties that I did that work on, that I put those what was supposed to be short-term mortgages on early in my career.
That's really, really great advice.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously your deals have evolved over time. What does a deal need to look like for you today? Like, what are the metrics that you look at, and what are you targeting for a deal today?
Cash on cash day one. We look for cash flow day one, and a lot of multifamily, big multifamily, is guys like shied away from that. It kind of doesn't do that as much anymore. Um, but a lot of deals still do. That's why we love hotels, branded, none of these boutique hotels, like 20 units on the side of a highway.
Mm,
Not that.
okay.
We're buying branded hotel with flags you've heard of, that have loyalty clubs and members and membership programs and everything like that. Those kind of deals we're really excited about because those kinds of deals tend to make like 8, 9, 10% first day. So that gets me excited. I'm, Kirby, not in as much of a world of predicting appreciation is going to happen over the next 10 years. We've had crazy appreciation in real estate over the last 10. If anything, real estate may continue to depreciate a little bit over the next 10 years. But if you do a cash flow deal that's making cash flow today, and you're amortizing your debt, meaning paying it off paying a bit of it off every year, you're going to be just fine. And I think that those kind of deals get me excited. Like a deal that can cash flow a little bit and then amortize debt, I'm all over.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm totally with you on that. And people ask me that all the time, like, what do you think the market's going to do? Is it a good time to buy, or should I just sit on the sidelines for a while, wait for things to drop off? And I'm like, well, if you can buy, like for me, I'm buying small, lower cost short-term rentals that
Right.
cash flow really well. And so I'm like, if you can collect a few $1,000s a month cash flow while you sit on this property, even if it went to zero tomorrow in value, as long as 20 years from now it's worth double, which historically it should be.
Write it out. Yeah.
You're making, in the meantime, you're financially free if you've got a handful of these, and as a worst case scenario, use it as a long-term rental and it still cash flows. So it's like nobody knows the market, but the best investors seem like they do because they just buy sound fundamentals over the long term. So that's such a great point there.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too. I believe you work with your wife in the business, and
I do.
yeah, and I work with mine as well. We kind of complement
Okay.
each other's skill sets. But I'm curious because there's a lot of people I work with who also are spouses working together, and a lot of spouses listen to this show. So, what do you recommend for people who work with their spouses in their real estate investing business, based on experience, in order to make it work as effectively as possible?
Oh boy. No spouse. Here's a few things that I've learned, mostly the hard way, Kirby, maybe you too. No spouse is the boss, right? Nobody reports to the other person. Your spouse is not your employee. Your spouse is your business partner. Don't ever forget that, and don't ever treat your spouse like an employee, because I can tell you, it does not go well in either way. And not just, your wife, a husband treating a wife like an employee, or vice versa, right? Nobody wants that from their spouse, right? And that's number one. Number two, really do a lot of deep dive analysis on what you are great at, spouse number one, and then what spouse number two is great at, and find a way to build a business around both your greatnesses. And there's got to be, some polarity in there, meaning like spouse one has to do something different than what spouse two does. Even if they're both great at the same things, okay, well, let's find a way to manifest those greatnesses in different facets of the business, because the business needs different things, right? So make sure that you play into the needs of each spouse. Like, don't have your wife that has a master's in social work keep the books for your company, right? Not math, not algebra, not accounting, not any of those kinds of things. Social work, very, very great people person, my wife, but not a good bookkeeper. And so that was a bad idea. So that leads me to my third point, which is to find what you two do great, and then find the things that you two don't do great at all, and immediately, like tomorrow, outsource those things. So that you and your spouse can lean into your greatnesses as best as possible. Those are some of the things that I learned as well. And I think that it's good to kind of have that work a lot. Liz and I do work together, but we don't work together all the time. We're both alphas. And so we both want to be in our little circles and, kind of pushing our own rocks up a hill. And so we do have things that we work on together very closely, but we also allow ourselves to have that level of independence. I've seen some spouses that just like put their desks right next to each other and they're just cute little Ozzy and Harriet hanging out every day and all that. Not that might not speak to everyone. Maybe you need a thing where you and your spouse both have different corners of operations and you both get together and have things that you do together also. So those are just some tips that I found over 20 years of marriage. And this is mostly from doing it the wrong way. All these things, all those lessons that I've learned how to do it the right way.
Do you find that it's hard to separate work from personal then?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You guys have kids?
Yeah, we have 3 with 1 on the way. So.
Oh, goodness. There you go. Good for you guys. At the end of the day, before we had kids, that's all, like the business is all we had. And so we had these awful rules, Kirby. I was like, okay, you can't talk business in certain rooms of the house, like you're not allowed to talk business in the bedroom and you can't talk business in the kitchen and everything like that. And, like someone would come up and be like, all right, let's go in the other room so we can talk, and all that. Like it was so stupid. It was really about like just respecting boundaries. Yeah. Now that we have 2 kids. And so now that we have, a couple of kids running around, it becomes easier because like the conversations cannot be about the business all the time. It's like the kids are little need machines and they're just just cranking out asks and requirements and everything like that. So we're constantly dealing with the kids as well. What we have found work. I'm making all those things that didn't work, right? Here's what did work with regards to, communications and stuff like that. We have regular meetings. We go over our goals, go over like check-ins on how each of our initiatives are going and, just more like working on the business together, right? We have those regular check-ins and we have a date on a regular basis, probably date night. That's, once a month, once every couple of weeks kind of thing. So have regular dates and we're allowed to talk a little bit of business shop on the date, but we also we force ourselves like, okay, we can't just talk business the whole time. We have to just enjoy each other's company. And so, because it's tempting with everything going on, it's tempting not to just talk shop the whole time. And I see that becoming toxic in a marriage because you don't want your marriage to become just a business partnership. You want your marriage to become really enjoying life with each other too. And so you have to kind of allow for that and sometimes mandate for both of those things to have room in the conversations.
Yeah.